Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Cook Inlet Tug and Barge, a marine transportation company specializing in harbor services focusing on the Port of Anchorage and the major commercial participants in the Cook Inlet region, providing customers with marine services specifically tailored to their needs.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather here on KAKM. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. Fire danger has improved over some of the interior somewhat in some places here. Just high fire danger now up over the upper Yukon Valley and back over toward the AKwx Valley, but not quite into the Kobuk Valley there. And then still have some extreme fire danger, 40-mile country and on the north slopes of the Alaska Range there, and then down over the Copper River Basin, and also some high to extreme fire danger over the northern southeast coast, and high fire danger here along the Alaska Range, western Alaska Range, and into the northern Kuskokwim Valley. On the satellite imagery today, I can see low pressure up here over the northeast interior, and that brought a mixture of rain and snow to the Arctic coast, eastern Arctic coast today, and some pretty good precipitation down in over the north slope into the Brooks Range. Galbraith Lake had about 7/10 of an inch of rain today, and 24-hour amounts. Umiat had just under half an inch of rain, and even some precipitation getting down 1/3 of an inch falling in Beaver, and Living Good had about 12/100 of an inch of rain there just north of Fairbanks. And otherwise, a lot of sunshine here through the west central interior from the, western Brooks Range all the way down into northeast Bristol Bay. Of course, sunshine here across south central Alaska into the Copper River Basin. Had a band of clouds here drop southeastward with that band of moisture mostly up through Canada there, and a lot of sunshine here over the southeast coast. A lot of temperatures get into the 60s and high 70s. Otherwise, this frontal system out here brought some pretty gusty winds, 35 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts, the Alaska Peninsula, and up along the southwest coast today. Cape Newinam had gusts about 40, 42 miles an hour during the day today, one of the stronger wind gusts, and a fair amount of rain along with that system. Places like Unalaska and Cold Bay picked up about 3/4 of an inch of rain in the last 24 hours, ending at 4 p.m. this afternoon. False Pass had 1 1/4 inches of rain. Been a very wet May there along the Alaska Peninsula and portions of northern Bristol Bay, as well as the southwest coast. Just a few hundredths of an inch falling across the coastal areas of the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta from the reports, but just under half an inch up at Gamble there, with the rain extending that far to the north there, but not quite as windy. Well, it was pretty windy there. They had gusts 25 to 35 miles per hour. Back to the west with that low center, a lot of showers back here over the Aleutian, southern Bering Sea, winds west-southwest, 25 gusting 35 miles per hour. Better conditions behind the front and across the eastern Aleutians. Looks like a few breaks in the clouds there, but a lot of low clouds here along and off the coast of the Panhandle there, back up to just south of Prince William Sound, but mostly clear skies here again from Copper River Basin, other than some cirrus, back to the west across southern Alaska, and then up the west side here to about the Brooks Range. And you get into that precipitation, rain, snow, even saw some freezing rain in some of the observations earlier on with fog. Had dense fog over at Wainwright earlier today, but that broke out to some pretty good VFR this afternoon as that burned off. And the forecast for tonight is still a chance of rain or snow with fog there along the eastern Arctic coast, with showers down across the eastern north slope and into the Brooks Range. Look for some isolated showers over the Wrangell Mountains and the eastern Alaska Range. Otherwise, most of the moisture will be off over into Canada, so the interior looking pretty good. A lot of clear skies and light winds going on. Same thing here along the southeast coast, but look for that low cloud deck kind of right along the outer coastline there, all the way up to just south of Yakutat, probably just south of Cordova. Should stay clear over Prince William Sound, definitely clear for Cook Inlet down to about Kodiak Island, partly cloudy, partly to mostly cloudy skies there. Clear conditions north, cloudier to the south. Still a band of rain here going on for the Alaska Peninsula, but edging a little bit farther to the east, so places like Falls Pass may see it become a little more intermittent and lighter. And nothing for the eastern Aleutians, but a band of rain up along the southwest coast. This front really weakening, so those winds will die off dramatically here during the overnight hours back up to St. Lawrence Island. Still a pretty good chance of rain, but looks like that moisture will stay west and south of the Seward Peninsula both tonight and tomorrow. Showers getting a little more scattered out there out over the Aleutians, with the low pulling back to the northwest and weakening, as well as the winds dropping off now just west-southwest 10 to 20 miles an hour for tonight. And then for Saturday, still a development here, bring a pretty good chance of rain into the central Aleutians, Adak and Atka, maybe as far east as Nikolsky, and that's about it. But now the remnants of this front here, keeping it showery over the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, mostly cloudy skies, more isolated into the Kuskokwim Valley and along the Alaska Range. Very isolated showers possible during the afternoon hours. Just some variable clouds down across the Aleutian Range. Should be a mostly sunny day there for Kodiak Island, with light westerly wind flow going on there, with offshore breezes. That's going to keep this low cloud deck off the coast south of Prince William Sound. So sunny skies, warmer temperatures, highs approaching 80 degrees in the Copper River Basin, the Susitna Valley, and the central Kenai Peninsula tomorrow, and into the low to mid 70s here over the central interior valleys, Tanana Valley, possibly the Koyukuk Valley, mostly in the 60s there. Isolated thunderstorms possible here over the eastern interior in and around the Eagle area. Isolated showers still a threat there on the eastern Arctic coast. Otherwise, morning fog, low clouds, mainly on the eastern Arctic coast, but increasing winds here. 20 to 35 miles an hour in gusts out of the east and northeast. That's should keep it clear with the lower fog and clouds pushed off to the west, and there's still a threat of some isolated showers in and around Skagway, but the remainder of the southeast coast looks mostly sunny with highs in the 60s and mid 70s once again. And the forecast for Sunday, that low out here to the west is kind of slides off to the southeast and only leaves some scattered showers behind over the eastern Aleutians, breaking out partly to mostly sunny skies, Adak and Atka. And then this next system bringing some small craft advisory winds, southeast winds 30 knots or gusts possibly 35, 40 miles an hour by the late afternoon to the far western Aleutians. High pressure in over the northern Bering Sea, so pretty light northerly winds. Light winds, areas of low clouds and fog should be on the increase during the day on Sunday out here over the Bering Sea. Same thing through the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island. Risk of a shower there. And showers a little more widespread now over northeast Bristol Bay and into the Kuskokwim Delta areas, and kind of isolated, scattered up over the Yukon Delta. Otherwise, a thermal low over south central Alaska, so temperatures back into the near 80 degrees there in Susitna Valley, Copper River Basin. Definitely in the 70s, all of the Kenai Peninsula. Cook Inlet, Prince William Sound, still looking pretty good. Low clouds should stay south of the area there, but still hugging the coastline here of the Panhandle with the high pressure out to the west, kind of a west-northwest wind flow, keeping the clouds right along the outer coastline, but the interior area there should stay mostly sunny and dry. All the showers over in Canada, off to the east, up to the north. Isolated thunderstorms possible over the eastern Alaska Range and the Talkeetna Mountain, or the Wrangell Mountains, and up here over the northern area is kind of a push of cooler air coming down once again, so that'll kick off some showers, could even trigger some isolated thunderstorms again in and around the Eagle area, but showers from the upper Yukon Valley or the White Mountains, possibly as far south as the White Mountains, back to the north to the eastern Arctic coast. Areas of fog on the east side, and still pretty windy, pretty gusty east winds here on the western Arctic coast, and north winds, excuse me, north to northeast. At about 20 knots here for the Chukchi Sea, southeastern Chukchi Sea, but lighter in toward Kotzebue Sound. And temperatures this afternoon along the Panhandle look like this. Again, quite a range here from 50 degrees at Elfin Cove to 74. These are all 4 o'clock temperatures, 74 at Juneau and down at Annette. Klawock had 61 with a 59-degree reading at Sitka. Yakutat at 55, same temperature there at Middleton Island, but Cordova up to 65, a nice 66 today in Valdez, and 66 at Seward, but earlier they reached 73 degrees with the north winds blowing there, then it turned south and they dropped a few degrees, about 7 degrees there, and I think that 73 tied the record high of 73 set in 1993. Otherwise, Gulkana had 73 also today with a 71 up at Northway, 71 also there in the Susitna Valley at Talkeetna with 66 at Delta, 68 at Fairbanks, and 65 degrees at Tanana. Cooler conditions now up over the upper Yukon Valley, just 55 at Fort Yukon. Eagle couldn't make 70, at least by 4 o'clock with 69. 64 at Bettles, 37, a little cool up there at Anatuvik with the elevation lowering freezing levels. 48 degrees over at Arctic Village, and a 36 up at Dead Horse. 38 at Barrow, 44 at Point Lane, and back down to 37 at Cape Lisburne, and 48 Kivalina. 54 in Kotzebue, or Selawik up to 61 today, and 53 at Buckland, 59 in Nome. McGrath, 68 degrees, and a 70-degree reading there at Slate Butte, and then back down to 59 at Bethel. We'll see in the upper 40s out along the coast here. 45 in Gamble with the rain, and 40s for the Pribilofs, 40s for the Aleutians. Again, lower 40s, always cooler out towards Shemya. 50 degrees in Unalaska, upper 40s to lower 50s for the Alaska Peninsula, but King Salmon pushed up to 68 degrees this afternoon. Lows for tonight, upper 20s and lower 30s for the central and eastern Arctic coast, and then even the North Slope areas dropping into the upper 20s, otherwise 30s through the Brooks Range, upper 30s to mid 40s here over the northeast part of the state, lower to mid 40s for the northwest, but 30s out along the Bering Sea coastline down into the northern Bering Sea to the Pribilofs, lows in the upper 30s for the Aleutians as well, lower 40s for the Alaska Peninsula, mid 40s for Bristol Bay, lower to mid 40s here for south central Alaska, and the Copper River Basin. For the southeast coast, temperatures ranging from the lower 40s to the lower 50s. Highs for tomorrow, again down that way. Kind of a range from the upper 50s in the cloudy, foggier areas to the mid 70s where the sun shines. 76 the forecast high for Juneau tomorrow, and 69 for Klawock, with 73 at Cordova. Valdez forecast high 75 degrees, near 80 at Gulkana and Talkeetna in the Susitna Valley. Kenai Peninsula, central peninsula there, or away from the water's edge, into the 70s. 70s for Anchorage tomorrow, and mid 70s here over the central interior, and then 73 for McGrath, with a little cooler up there on the Arctic coast, mid to upper 30s on the eastern and central areas, but still that offshore wind flow pushing up to near 50 on the west side. No attack, forecast high 65 degrees, and a 66 at Buckland. Not too bad. Bethel forecast high of 70 tomorrow, with a 44 at Macoriac, while Gamble has 39, forecast high in the 40s for the Bering Sea Aleutians, and Alaska Peninsula, upper 40s to lower 50s to mid to upper 60s for Bristol Bay. Flying weather, marginal VFR, shouldn't be any IFR, but right along the coastline here, if there's any IFR, this is where it'll be. But that should cut off here just south of Yakutat, and VFR, Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay, northward all the way to the eastern Arctic coast and the eastern North Slope areas. You see some IFR, especially in the morning hours along the east side. VFR back to the west. And then along that frontal boundary, we've got some marginal VFR here with embedded areas of IFR, upslope areas of the Alaska range, or the Alaska Peninsula, and along the southwest coast, and then a kind of a break behind the front, and a lot of IFR with that wet system pushing in toward the eastern, or toward the central Aleutians, pressing toward the eastern Aleutians, but won't make it too much farther east than that, with a lot of marginal VFR out over the Bering Sea. Passes all look VFR, Anatuvik, the Brooks Range, Adigan, VFR, north and south entrances, Lake Clark and Merrill, both looking good. Rainy VFR on either approach. Both entrances of Windy will be open right through the pass. Isabel, good VFR flying for Isabel and Tasta tomorrow. And for Tanita, VFR flying tomorrow and Sunday. Portage will be open both tomorrow and Sunday with VFR flying. Ceilings and visibilities still unlimited there for Chilkoot and White. Freezing levels, 10,000 feet with the upper level high right over southern Alaska. About 10,000 feet in this area, with 8,000 feet still up into the central interior. Then the cooler air evident up here over the northeast, dropping down to 2,000 to 4,000 feet along the eastern Arctic coast, and kind of a lack of a gradient here in the west, signifying a lack of wind speed as well. So the winds will be much lighter out in this area, but still a cold pool out over the western Bering Sea down to about 2,000 feet. Icing threats along that dying frontal boundary below 12,000 feet of the light to isolated and moderate rime varieties here for the Alaska Peninsula, up along the southwest coast, possibly getting this far inland over the Yukon and Kuskokwim deltas, but mostly on the eastern side of St. Lawrence Island. Otherwise, icing free through much of interior Alaska. It could be some leftover stuff up here over the eastern Brooks Range area, but that's about it. Icing free down the southeast coast, and then more icing, rime icing here over the central Aleutians, spreading in toward Nikolsky, but again, it won't make it much farther east than that. The whole thing will kind of slide off to the south, be left over with some residual moisture hanging on for some possible icing threats for the eastern Aleutians on Sunday. And the upper level wind flow chart showing again the upper level high here over the Gulf of Alaska, and that trough cutting and bringing the chillier air into the northeast part of the state. That's going to be kind of persistent through the weekend and then actually start to dig southward late Sunday and into the first of next week here and bring some cooler air down into the central interior, possibly into the southern interior during the first of the week. Otherwise, for tomorrow, southeast wind flow here, so that front's going to really just die in place out there with the jet mostly to the south of the Aleutians, so no storminess expected even out that way until late Sunday. And at 9,000 feet, southeasterlies at about 15 knots here along the west coast. Kind of a variable lighter wind condition in over the interior, northwest at 5 for the panhandle, easterly winds at about 20 there in the eastern Arctic coast. Same thing at 3,000 feet, up to 25 knots the western Arctic coast. Eastern Arctic coast lighter and more northeasterly. Light variable winds here over interior Alaska, even lighter and more variable here into the high centers along the west coast, and then southerlies at only 15 to 20 knots farther out to the west. Turbulence-wise, not much significant to talk about. Maybe some light to isolated moderate chop over the eastern Brooks Range and the eastern Arctic coast here would be about the most significant area of turbulence that'd be in the state. Maybe a little bit of isolated chop possible for the eastern Aleutian areas there, Nikolsky back out toward Atka. And after hangar flying, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary O'Connor, Secretary of the Board of Directors for the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation, and in my day job, I manage the Aviation Safety Program at the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. This evening, we are honored to have on our show Ms. Millicent Hoeppner. She is an aviation accident investigator with the National Transportation Safety Board here in Anchorage. She's a new arrival in Alaska, so congratulations on the job and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mary.
Millicent, you're a pilot. Can you tell us how you got started in aviation?
Well, I went to college at Louisiana Tech University, and I had some friends that were in the aviation program, and I thought it sounded fun, so I picked it up as my minor. I took my first flight and immediately went and changed it, and I was hooked, and so I graduated with a degree in professional aviation.
And you had never been in a small airplane until you went to college?
Nope, never before. Like I say, it just sounded fun, and at the time that I joined the program, there was a lot of students, so it took me a while to get before I could get an instructor, and I just kept showing up to the airport, and like I say, the first flight, and I was sold.
That seems to happen to a lot of people. They either get addicted in a later stage in life, or they grow up wanting to be a pilot, and that's all they know and want to do.
One flight was all it took for me.
Good. Can you tell us what you were studying with the professional pilot program, what you learned there?
It covered everything from aviation. We would do, obviously ground classes that took us through private and instrument and commercial courses. And then you would go to the airport, say in the afternoon after classes, and then you would fly and work towards those ratings. While I was in college, I also worked on the ramp, so I fueled airplanes and parked them and just really immersed myself in any type of aviation that I could. And then when I graduated, I became a flight instructor at that school.
Okay. And you went to the National Transportation Safety Board after that. How long have you been with them?
Well, after I graduated with my professional aviation degree, I went and got another aviation degree in air traffic management from Texas State University, and I went from there to my internship with the board. So I started with the board as an intern, and I did that for about 4 months. Then I went into, and I did that at headquarters. Then I went into the regions where I volunteered, and then I went back to headquarters and worked in their response operations center as a watch officer. And then from there, this position opened up in Alaska, so I was able to achieve this dream of becoming an investigator.
So headquarters is in Washington, D.C.
Correct.
And the idea of living in such a busy place, so close to government, scares a lot of people. Was that when you thought, like flying, you just did it once and you thought, oh, this is wonderful, I want to stay doing this for the rest of my career?
Yes, when I started the internship as the board, I really knew nothing about the board. Right away, I fell in love with the mission of the board and all the people there that work so hard and really believe in aviation safety and believe in what they're doing, and they want to make things safer for all pilots and in other modes of transportation. But that was where I became hooked with the board.
And what types of jobs did you do while you were at headquarters?
Well, that's when I started off in operations. So I worked with the pilots and air traffic control and weather. So I was able to work with them on all their investigations, which from headquarters we worked at different things across the country. So it was great exposure for me to see at a broad scope of what the board does.
So you were involved with investigations before you actually had to go out and investigate an accident?
Yes. Yes, while I was there, I did one regional investigation, and then I thought, wow, this is amazing to be on scene and to experience something completely new to that. And so I set my sights on being an investigator, and it took a while, but I got there, and I'm happy to be here.
And congratulations for
Thank
that.
you.
A lot of people in aviation appreciate the investigations and the reports that the NTSB issues after incidents and accidents, and I know a lot of pilots look forward to reading the reports after they're closed out. Some people think that you have the dream job. Did you always know that you wanted to do this?
I didn't, and the whole thing was really a mystery to me until I started doing it myself, and I thought, wow, I love this, because one, it pulled together different sides of aviation where you look at, not just what the pilot was doing, but what the weather was doing, if there was air traffic involved. So it was all these pieces that then come together to put it all together, and that fascinated me, and it was a challenge that I love.
Well, very good. It sounds very interesting, and we look forward to having you back on our show where we can maybe talk about what other people might do to learn to follow in your footsteps.
Excellent.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested in supporting the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and Alaska Public Media, you can become a member. Please check our website and feel free to contact us or just fill out an application and send it in. Thank you so much for tuning in to Hangar Flying, and remember to always file a flight plan, and if you can, file a pilot report as well. Fly safely.
Welcome back. We'll look for west to northwest winds, mostly 20 to 25 knots here along the, along the outer coastline. Over the inside waters, northwest at about 20, over the Clarence Strait area. Southerlies in the afternoon at 10 knots for the central inside waters, and north 10, kind of a reversal there for northern Lynn Canal. Then on to Sunday, westerly winds at 15 here for the north coast, northwest 15 for the central and south coast, with seas running 4 to 6 feet out there. Still no change here over the inside waters, down to 15 knots from the northwest there for Clarence Strait with 3-foot seas. For Prince William Sound tomorrow, southwesterlies at about 15 in the afternoon with 3-foot seas. Southwest breeze for northern Cook Inlet. Southerly breeze there south of the Forelands and Cook Inlet. 20-knot southwest winds here across Kodiak Island. Small craft advisories for the Barren Islands and the western North Gulf Coast for west-southwest winds at about 25 with seas 7 to 8 feet. And then for Sunday, southwesterlies at about 20 continue here for Kodiak Island, and westerlies down under 25 knots now for the Barren Islands and the North Gulf Coast. The central Gulf Coast, so down to southwest at 15. Light southwest breeze for Prince William Sound. Light westerly breezes here for Cook Inlet, a little stronger, but not much there for Kamishak Bay. And for Bristol Bay, light southwesterlies tomorrow at about 10 knots. Light southerlies at 10 knots for the water southwest of Kodiak Island. The Alaska Peninsula, light variable winds 10 to 15 knots with seas running 4 to 7 feet. And then for Sunday, now no change, still light variable winds continuing here for the peninsula with seas running 3 to 6 feet. Southwesterlies at about 15 for the water southwest of Kodiak Island, west 10 for Bristol Bay with just 3-foot seas. And out in the Aleutians, not much in the way of wind at all out there. Southwest 15 here for the western zone Otherwise, Adak and Atka southwest at 15 knots. And then for the eastern Aleutians, southeasterlies 15 to 20 knots with the strongest winds west of Unalaska Island. And then for Sunday, even lighter winds, kind of a east-northeast 10 to 15 knot wind condition now for the eastern Aleutians on Sunday. And out here to the west, northerlies for the central Aleutians, only 10 to 15 knots. The winds start increasing, especially in the afternoon, not quite reaching gale force for that far western zone in the afternoon, 30 knots. And then for the Bering Sea, light variable winds here for St. Lawrence Island, light northerlies here for the southwest coast, and southeast 20 for the northern Bering Sea. And then on Sunday, mostly north or northwest, 15 to 20 knots, but only 10 knots for the Pribilofs, with seas running 4 to 5 feet. And for the Arctic coast there, north to northeast at 10 knots on the east side, central coast northeast 15, but small craft advisories, brisk wind advisories here for the western coastline, east to 20 from Cape Thompson, or from Wales to Cape Thompson. And then those turn northeast on Sunday with easterlies 30, got gale warnings here from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort for 35 knot winds out of the east, otherwise under gale force, but still pretty brisk there for the western Arctic coast. And for tonight, again, pretty dry and clear here with light winds over much of the interior. A weakening front keeps it damp out along the west coast of the Alaska Peninsula, and a chance of rain and snow in the eastern Arctic coast. And for tomorrow, that front dies out, just leaving some mostly cloudy skies and showers behind. Still a chance of rain for the Alaska Peninsula, sunny and warm over the interior with temperatures in the mid-70s here for the Tanana Valley, near 80 for the Susitna Valley, Copper River Basin, Central Kenai Peninsula, definitely into the mid-70s, and a repeat on Sunday. Have a great evening, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow at 5:30.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.